I think I recall that maybe there's been efforts in this regard in the past that have not been fully implemented. And that's been a problem through the years that, we buy a piece of software and then it either gets partially implemented or not at all. Who's going to drive the process on this to make sure?
That would be me.
Okay,
We also have actually the first selectman is very much in favor of this and has been involved in that, pushing the departments to get this done. But on a day-to-day basis, that's going to be, I'm going to one who's going to have to get them all together. But I have to say, the departments involved are all very supportive and looking forward to it.
okay, good, thank you.
Leslie?
So it really relates a little bit to what Harry just asked. I know Municity, when it first came on, it was put in place to allow for as much digitizing of the process as possible and allow for user approach. We've never been successful. First of all, the onboarding of it was quite lengthy, and I know we were coming from an antiquated system, but it was quite lengthy. Can you talk about what the expected time frame is, you think, for this implementation and the challenges you might face?
I think it's a long-term, it's not like a 2 or 3 month project. I'd say at least 6 months. I have to look at the timeline they proposed. Well, kind of can't. No, I can't give you the full timeline, sorry. I don't have it here in front of me, but it will be lengthy. It's not a simple process because we have to go through what people are doing now and evaluate all that and how it will work with the online system. And we want to do it right. We don't want to have it go live and have it fail. So we're going to take our time about doing it.
Is this a module to the existing Municity? Or
Some of it is an upgrade to the existing Municity, some of it is additional add-ons.
And are we crafting our own software, which is
No.
some of what always
No.
delays us in
We're
implementation?
not the soft, no. But there may be special things that we're asking for to fit our needs.
And the current system it was intended, or what's in place now is digitizing or electronically controlling the application process and then some internal communication. Is this solely focused on external information, or I guess it's not, because you talked about digitizing notes that pass from department to department.
Well, so it's,
The scope is very, we have one paragraph on a pretty aggressive and important project, but just to understand the implications both within our departments and to the community, I think is important.
so in the end, it's to accomplish two things. One, to allow the users, like the residents, to enter their applications electronically, sitting at home. Not to type in the form and email it in, but you'd be able to sit at your dining room table and fill out your building permit application. The next part of it is also to allow all of the departments here to do the work electronically. It will allow the residents or the applicants to be able to track the progress of their application electronically without having to call up and say, where am I?
Is any of that being done currently? I thought we had been doing some of that.
Don't know.
No?
I don't know.
Okay, and the contingency that's included in here of 15%, is that more of a contingency on time, that it may be a lengthier process than you have, as opposed to the cost for the individual pieces?
Yes, because there's data conversion, there's training, so we want to be sure that we have allowed for something unexpected to come up.
And as far as one-time costs versus annual operating expenses, do you have a breakdown of those?
The annual maintenance, the annual maintenance is, the first year's is included in the budget. Jim, help me out where I'm looking for it in this.
The annual maintenance for the software itself, the Municity, will be included in the annual fee that we pay for Municity already. So that won't change at all.
Doesn't change?
There'll be a slight increase due to the online processing of the fees, but that's $1,000 or $2,000, something like that. It's minimal. The DigiPlan piece, which is the additional software piece, that will be approximately the cost of what you see in the breakdown there of an annual cost, but that's for 30 licenses across different users,
About 50,000 a year.
about 50,000 a year.
And let's see what else. So the project manager consultant, is that person independent, or are they
Yes.
associated with Municity?
Yes, that was a recommendation of the IT department, that we would want to bring somebody in who will be, somebody with the technical expertise to oversee the project.
And in the description that we did get, it is going to involve more departments that are not, well, I don't know how technologically savvy, certainly not in this area they may be. So is that training will be part of the implementation of the task, but are you also, I'm sure you're also planning for ongoing training, even once the implementation initially is completed?
I would assume with any software, you want to have some kind of ongoing training, especially as you have new hires, but that doesn't necessarily have to be an outside cost.
And does this, I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but does this change any of our record retention requirements from the state?
So, as I understand the state record retention rules, when you submit, if the document originates as an electronic document, that's how you have to maintain it. All right, so right now, if somebody submits a building permit on paper, we have to keep it on paper. Going forward, if they submit it electronically, we keep it electronically. We do not have to generate a paper copy to satisfy the record retention laws.
So we should start saving some money at some point for record retention.
We should, yes. And it should make the lives of other people easier not to have to deal with all the paper.
Smaller offices. This question is for the finance staff. We have this listed as a interim or funds coming from capital non-recurring, and I was just questioning whether that's the thought process into capital versus operating for this kind of project.
Well, we see it as a small capital, so that capital non-recurring seemed like the obvious place. We discussed it with Roland so we can get the historical treatment of things like this, and that was his recommendation as well, so.
Soon you're going to have to stop quoting Roland as being the guidance.
Well, I'm trying to get the historical reference
Yeah.
points, so
Yeah,
which you could probably tell us as well.
It's just some of these expenses are not we can't capitalize some of the expenses. And I do know that we have done capitalized things in the past when they're initial programs that are just being implemented for the first time. But like the DigiPlan cost is going to show up in the operating budget as we move forward.
That's right, and I think we even discussed that would be IT going forward, is that correct?
Yes.
It's going to the IT budget.
So it's going to be in the IT budget, not the,
The support costs
Just
will
the
be in the
support
IT
going
budget.
forward, and Tom Klein was involved in all of their discussions.
The reasoning for that is because it's going to be used across so many departments.
Yeah, there should be consistency in how we which department we put these expenses into, so, but that's all.
yeah, no, I'd like to follow up on this, if you have other questions, just to understand this, because, I thought we had some, this to me looks like either consulting or it looks like equipment that's probably depreciable with a very short life. And I thought that, like, when we did the devices for the schools that they use because of its short life, all of that is done in the operating, not in capital. So I think Leslie's point here is, I have exactly the same point. Shouldn't it be in operating rather than in capital? So I would suggest that you take another look at this and make sure that with the devices and all, I don't know what the depreciable life of these screens and so forth is, but I would think it wouldn't be much different than the other devices that we've had in schools, and I know we've done those in the operating, so I'm a little bit
Well,
concerned here.
these are big screens, like the TV screens, they're probably 5 years. So as a project like this could classify as capital. This isn't unusual. That's why I was looking for historical reference. If,
Okay, do you have more questions? Leslie, I
no.
sort of stepped in because I wanted a little bit more detail on that one. Do you have any more questions?
No, David.
David?
So, excuse me. So, a couple of questions. Are there any permits not included in this? I know, for example, police is not on the list. I know that's
We're
a
talking-
separate, yeah.
These are land use type permits, so planning, building, fire marshal, health department, all the development type permits, not a permit for a street opening or things like that.
And not for the,
That was a bad example. Not a parking permit.
right, the parking permit.
Yeah.
So the question is, I know police is not included. What else? Are there any large areas in the town where we need permits that are not included?
So David, I think that's a good question, because I've been wondering, when I read this, I was wondering about the Board of Education. They do many plans, including engineering plans and so forth, over there, and
So as far as they would have to submit them to the town for approvals, they would be involved.
so do we need to make sure that they're in this project costs, or?
Nope, because they're the
user.
applicant.
There'll be a user.
There'll be a user.
Okay.
They don't have the kind of permitting that they would be approving somebody's application.
Right, but, I mean, I don't want to tie us up, but I know police is a little bit different, and I don't know if there are any, Ben is here, he may have an insight, whether there's any permitting, I can't think of any, particularly with the Board of Ed, but there may be. And so, and the answer may not be known right away, but to the extent that we have other permits that, could benefit from this, we may want to consider.
This is all.
But I think this is a land use type
It's
system.
all
This is-
land use.
I understand, but
So the police don't have any land use functions.
the police have permitting as it relates to parking spaces, for example. That's all I'm saying.
That's a different kind of software need.
It is different. yeah.
Yes. I mean, we have permitting software for parking. It's a different type of permitting. I think when we're looking at it as permits, that's maybe not the right thing to, it's the land use applications.
Right. Okay. The other question is, there are presumably efficiencies that will link to this. In other words, as we go into this automated process, even if it's just in the record retention, have you tabulated that? I know it's a maybe sensitive thing, but I think it would be useful to know, A, it's going to provide a much better service to the community. Clearly, everyone will benefit. It'll make life easier for our residents. In and of itself justifies this appropriation. But there may also be efficiencies where temporary salaries, maybe even headcount. Have we enumerated what that might be and how that could be executed?
Not at this time, no. Our focus is on the efficiency and providing the better service to the residents.
Right.
And improving the whole process, so, permits flow faster, inspections are done more frequently or more timely. so that we improve the overall service to the people. Is it possible that there will be other efficiencies to come out of it? Absolutely, but you can't quantify it at this time.
I would just ask, whether you can give some thought as to how we may be able to,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah. I don't know if others on this committee have a view there. Those are my questions. But I love it. It's great. Yeah.
So I also have some questions. So, I did ask that Pat be at this meeting. So I do have a couple of questions through you, Kate, to Pat. Okay. And so, as I remember, Municity started in planning and zoning. And so, were there hurdles that didn't bring planning and zoning to this, that we should be aware of at this point in time? I thought it was supposed to be a universal system when it was started there. I don't know if there's any comments that you might have on that. No? Silence?
Come on, you come on up.
I don't know what the question is.
I heard you say through Kate, so I just didn't know if she was going to answer. Good afternoon, members, sorry. I'm not quite, I don't remember it being a P and Z driven project. I thought it was building, we had a software that was, either the contract or the software was expiring. We had to migrate to another similar software. So this Municity is the third iteration of permit tracking or permit, application load management that we have had in the office. So we were involved a lot with it. We have very particular, unique timelines as opposed to other departments that have like a standard 90-day, 60-day, 30-day. We have a date that starts on a date after you submit is the date that the start. It's all these legalese type of calculations. So we needed a lot of help in the automation of those dates so that we were making sure that we were getting that information without having to do a quick calculation on a spreadsheet, right? It was what we were doing in the older days. So, for all the foibles and problems, they've been very helpful in fixing them. I'm not gonna say it's been expeditious or timely, but it's certainly, they've been fixed and some of it comes into conformance, right? We have to, if it's not mandatory and absolute, we'd have to just conform. So if we have to do things with our left hand, so to speak, to make the system work, we'll just become left-handed on those factors and we won't force it the other way, so.
So I have another question for Pat. And that is, like, we're talked about the efficiency for the homeowner developer or the commercial developer, but is there a risk on the other side, the sort of the review of the drawings and so forth and so on, the diligence of the, we'll call it the zoning board of appeals side? Are we moving, will they be able to handle a, higher workload that might come out of this, or any questions? Or is it, because I know that, our neighborhoods are very important to us, and, people do a lot of complaining about, what's done and so forth. So is there an issue here that we need to make sure we are addressing while we're addressing the efficiency side?
So if I understand your question, are you saying that this may speed up review times to a point where maybe neighborhoods aren't able to follow the process? Is that
Or
what I'm understanding?
that's perhaps a nice way of saying it.
Okay, no, I just want to understand the question. What it does is it gets things in order quicker than our current system, because it's a blend between paper and digital. And certainly that timing will speed it up, but like commission items, we only meet every 2 weeks. So that rhythm is not changing with this. So those things will be fixed. Same thing with the ZBA. Those meetings are set a year in advance, and you won't be able to move any faster than the schedule that's already set permits. So those matters will stay as is. The administrative ones, perhaps, I could tell you right now, since we've had staffing shortages for over a year, we were working at a 4-week to 5-week clip. We're now at a 6 to 8 week clip on administrative applications. I would like to be back to the 5 and 4 with fully staffed. Are we gonna get to 2? I don't think so. I think the volume is too much. And with this system, there's still a human element to this. We have to receipt, review, and the completeness of things. And that is going to add the human element, but also the time to it. So it's not, if you email something at midnight, it's not going to be done at 8 a.m., right? That system is, I don't think anything is going to make that happen, or should it? But, so,
I was just worried about the protection of our neighborhoods and, abutting neighbors and so forth and so on.
yeah, and so it doesn't change any notification processes or anything. That's all state statute regulated. So people will be alerted in the same fashion and timing as they are now.
Thank you very much.
If I can add a question, this would bring probably Greenwich to the same standard as other communities. Am I correct that I've always heard the feedback that it's very difficult to deal with our processes in getting approvals?
Well, I can tell you that other communities are further advanced than we are when it comes to the online application process, yes.
But also, I hear the other side that we protect our community better than some of the others do, too. So that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, I don't think moving something, just as Patrick said, moving this to being a digital process does not change the protections that are in place for the residents legally by the state statute and by our local codes. It does not take away any of those timeframes, any of those notification requirements. It simply allows you to submit things electronically, to keep things recorded electronically, makes it easier for the homeowner or the developer to start their process and follow their process without having to come in here with, 20 big rolls of plans, not having to fit their application in between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. Jim gave me the example today of like a plumber who's a sole practitioner having to leave his work site in order to be able to come in here and do the application during our working hours. This allows him to do the application during his off time. But it doesn't take away any of the review that has to happen, any of the rules that have to be followed. It's still the code.
What? I have another question before I finish here. So the tax assessor also uses Municity and has been using Municity, but I know that there's been questions about some of the reporting and getting the information. Are you coordinating with the tax assessor's department to make sure that, if we're upgrading the system, that they're getting what they need in terms of, because they then take this data that comes in from the building department for the periodic revaluations that happen after these, or building inspections, and then the revaluation that follows. So, are you working with the tax assessor's department to make sure that that process is improved, if it can be, as you're doing this process?
Yeah, I don't think they've attended any of the meetings so far, but they will be involved in the process as, so that their needs are recognized. The tax collector will have to be involved as well because you need the tax collector to sign off before certain permits are given. So both the tax assessor and collector, as their involvement is required by the code, and I know it's very important for the tax assessor to get those, be updated when a building permit has been issued and completed so that they can go out and do their inspections. So that would continue.
So, you said they haven't been at the meetings, but I don't know, have they been invited? And I would just suggest that the tax assessor or people in the department, whoever's assigned to this, be invited to
Absolutely.
a meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So Karen Fasciolitis,
Hi, you stated that departments are very.
do you have a mic over there?
Thank you. You stated that departments are very supportive of this process, and certainly I am too, anything for efficiencies. And you've also mentioned that there have been meetings, but has there really been any formal investigative phase meetings that identifies all the stakeholders, including end users, to get their input as to what they would like the system to look like?
When you say end users, are you referring to the
Joe-
applicants?
Yeah, I mean, a cross-section of applicants, asking them to come in and.
No, it's been internal with staff that are involved in the processes.
And has a functional requirement document been prepared? In other words, have you identified all the functions, et cetera, and has that been prepared? It seems to me, I'll let you answer that first.
Well, unless we're moving forward, we have not done that at this point, but because it's kind of pointless for us if we're not going to move forward with the project.
Okay, but it seems to me that we're kind of putting the cart before the horse. I mean, I would think that you would want to start with maybe monies for the consultant to develop these documents to make sure that you are going in the right direction before we buy the computer software that will drive this, because you don't even know if that's going to be meeting all your needs. Wouldn't it make sense to first allocate the 30,000 or whatever you need for a consultant to help you develop all of these documentations, the flow, the information needs, et cetera, and then move to the next phase, which would be buying the software?
Well, we're talking about upgrading, the primary part of this is upgrading the software we do have. And the user departments have been involved, meeting with the software developers, and will continue to be involved as we develop the precise things we need. The consultant that we wanted was to bring on for the implementation phase.
I guess my question is, are you ready for that phase of it when you haven't really gone through and developed? In any type of software implementation, you need to understand all the components of it. And from what I'm hearing, you've identified two departments, tax collector and the tax assessor, the assessor, for example, and I'm not sure if there are any other departments who haven't been involved and might have other needs. I just think that this is, again, maybe you want to step back and develop these documents to make sure that you're covering all the bases, and that the upgrades to the software would then be what you really need.
Well, I'm going to say the two departments that you mentioned are not, they're I don't know what the right word for it is. They are not integral users of the system.
I get it, but they're going to be users of it, and
What they would get, Karen, is a notification that they need to take action. They are not part of the application process in the way that the land use agencies are.
okay, I don't know if I guess I'm not making myself clear, because I would love to see a document that just shows the whole flow process of information. In other words, somebody's going to submit something online. What do they need to do? Do they need to electronically submit their plans? Where does those plans go first? The flow through the departments as to who needs to sign off if this happens or that happens. Then once you know that, you know what your users need, okay, both internally and externally, because again, this is to make life for the plumber, et cetera. And then once you have all that information, you look at the software to say, okay, where do we need to change it to meet those needs? I'm not seeing that right now. I'm seeing that everybody's supportive, everybody likes the idea, but we don't have a real understanding of the flow of information and where it's going to go.
Well, I think every department has an understanding of their process and their application. I appreciate that, and thank you for your input.
I think we've covered a lot of, thank you, Dave. I think we've covered a lot of territory here, and you know what people's comments or issues might be, and you'll, as you move forward, many of the departments are here, and we'll be taking these comments into consideration in your smaller meetings that you're holding.
can I
So,
just-
I'm sorry, I didn't know you had another
No, I
question.
just wanted to follow up on what Karen was proposing, because I'm thinking about what's the BET's role in this, right? We want to make sure that the funds that are being appropriated have a specific purpose, a direction, and that they've been considered for a project that has a scope, right? And you've identified the outline of a scope. My guess is that there's been more discussion, information shared underlying to know what modules from municipal you want to include, what the end product is. So my guess is you have this information, it's not presented to us.
No, but we do,
But
yes.
you have that scope, you know that you need the consultant for the implementation, whether, right now, whether you're buying Model A or Model B of a computer screen, you do have time to determine that, and you have a budget estimate for what you think that will cover. So I think, project management is an important skill, and it's an important step to make sure something stays on track. You're hiring a consultant to do that. So I'm just questioning why we would need, as a BET, to verify all of that information. Given the size of this project, the importance of it, I think the goal is something that's been talked about for a long time. So I just wanted to give an alternate view of how to move ahead here.
Well, I will add, though, so maybe somewhere in between you, Leslie, and Karen, too, that, putting together some kind of a process manual for many of these projects is probably very important for, future people and the involvement, or as you say, future training. So that's something perhaps that the town, we have many siloed departments, but we really, as we found out in many of our internal audits, are lacking in process manuals or processes. So I do think that, there's something in between. Maybe it's not totally our responsibility, but maybe it's our responsibility to then go back at some point in time and do an internal audit to ensure that the processes are in place and that, they're being reviewed. So at this point, do I have a motion to?
I'm sorry. I have a question.
That brought up another question.
One more question for Patrick. Only because I played a role, as you may remember, on the Planning and Zoning Board of Appeals. Just wondering the training element of this from the perspective, I think maybe Leslie Tarkenton may have alluded to this, but in other words, as everyone submits the plans electronically, is there going to be any need to train this zoning enforcement team or the planning and zoning team to be proficient in, reading plans online and being comfortable with the software and all the training? And have you built that into the budget, or is it obvious and already covered by you?
Well, I will just say for my departments, or my divisions, since COVID, we have ostensibly gone to a digital environment. We have had paper for purposes of measuring things, so that the software that we're gaining with this ask will help us lessen that demand on paper, but we've had a demand on paper. We've also had the demand on paper that people want to come in the office and see things at a scale that's bigger than a 27-inch monitor. And so we have kept the paper and the digital, but people have been filing over email for a while now. Zoning enforcement less than us, because people come in and they need to take it from that desk to the building department, and the building department is paper only, so that's sort of a forced process that way. But we're doing it in some fashion now. Understanding how to use the new software, the measurement software, that'll take some time. I think where we may need specialized skills is on the input side. We have staff on planning and zoning and wetlands. We have shared staff with, environmental affairs that does the intake, and they review the, not the content, excuse me, the quantity of the applicant, making sure that all, paper A, paper C, Plan X is all in that document before it gets sent to the reviewer. The zoning enforcement staff, the inspectors, they do double duty. They do both. They do the collection and making sure everything's in there, and then they are the reviewer. So it may necessitate somebody to pivot into that role for them to do the intake review before it gets reviewed. I think it's all really fixable. I think there's efficiencies here that are going to make that a pivot and not a big change.
Okay, thanks.
So do I have a motion?
Yes.
David?
Move that we approve SE 7.
$480,000.
I'll second that.
Moved by David Weisbrod, seconded by Harry Fisher to approve SE 7 for the first selectman.
Routine.
Additional appropriation as a routine item or as a non-routine? As a routine item?
Routine from my perspective.
Routine? As a routine item. Those in favor? Okay, that motion is passed 400. Thank you, Kate.
See you Monday.
Thank you very
Well,
much.
you may not have to see us on Monday if it's routine. You may have Monday off.
Okay.
Harry will let you know.
So our next item on our agenda is from the Registrar's Office, RV1, Registrar of Voters, $25,205 approval to use of a poll worker pay grant. And we have our two registrars with us, Fred DeCaro and Mary Hagerty.
No, I asked that we stand because this is one of the few times I could say what Mary was to my right. But of course, you get the correct perspective for us. So I think this is pretty simple. So this is a grant from the state of Connecticut, which defers the cost of early voting, and we get to select what we use it for. For the easiest way for the purposes of filling out all the paperwork, we just use it towards payroll. We have already spent the payroll for the municipal election and for the primary in September. The total of those two events was roughly $50,000. And this particular grant is for $25,000, as the chair mentioned. So that money.
Just to be clear, we're talking about a small portion of our overall payroll. We're just focused on the early vote.
Right, just on the early voting
Correct.
folks, because we need to, document it all, so we're able to do it in a very discrete function. Again, we've already submitted it all to accounts payable. They're being paid this Friday, so this just replenishes the general fund. And as was the case last year, we promised not to spend that money. So it just winds up back into the coffers of the town at the end of the fiscal year.
Thank you. Any questions? Do I have a motion?
No, I'll make a motion to approval to use the state grant for poll worker pay of $25,205.
I'll second it and suggest routine.
You routine?
Yes.
Okay. So motion to approval to use a poll worker pay grant for $25,205. Those in favor? And that motion has passed unanimously, and it's routine, so thank you
Thank you.
very much. So our next, we actually have two different items from Parks and Recreation. And so we welcome Dan Carlson. And so the first item that we have on our agenda is for Parks and Rec, PR1. And it's a transfer for maintenance of machinery. And this is actually, as I understand, it's for work that will be done on a chiller for the ice rink.
Yes, that is correct. So Dorothy Hamill Rink, as everybody I'm sure is aware, is a very old rink past its useful life. Put a lot of maintenance in the cooling system that we have there. So we have two chillers that operate the rink. One is on at one time, one is off at other time. We switch them off to keep longevity with each of them. When we did our annual inspection, we have a consultant come out each and every year to inspect the rink, make sure everything's in working order so we can move forward without any issues. We didn't see any issues when we did that with our consultant. So we went forward, we created the ice sheet, and shortly after we created the ice sheet, the chiller that we were using in operation broke down. The compressor actually stopped functioning. And so we were able to turn on our backup chiller. We have that running, so there's no issues in keeping the rink maintained. But the potential issue that we see is, these chillers are 33 years old. There's a lot of maintenance on them. If this existing chiller, the one that we only have, goes down, that ice will not be able to be maintained. So we would likely have to rent a portable unit, which could be $7,000 to $10,000 a week. It's a very high expense, so we're trying to get out in front of it, fix our backup chiller, so if anything happens to the one that we're primarily using right now, we're able to use the backup one right away. And so, whether it's a little bit more cost up front, we'll need this in the future anyways for the duration of the rink existing and for future years. And this will prevent any, certain, cost for rental of a portable one if the existing chiller came down.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions?
No. Oh.
Harry?
I'm a little concerned that with this item and the next one, you're apparently have $65,000 of surplus funds in temporary salaries.
Well, we definitely debated in that. I mean, we had a couple of vacancies that we took into consideration. We looked at our forecasting files. You know, there is somewhat of a risk. We're only 4 months into the year. Our thinking was to prioritize getting this fixed, trying to utilize the existing funds that we have. And towards the end of the year, if we run into issues, I mean, we could always look to come back here and resolve it. We thought this would be better based on our existing funds that we have to try to work within our existing budget rather than try to ask for additional appropriation from, you know, the general fund balance.
Okay, but it does go to a little bit how you budget for the entire year, that you can actually find $65,000 even at this time of the year. So,
Well, as I said, I mean, this was across 5 different accounts that we took this into consideration based on, you know, vacancies that we have, and a lot of it are temporary salaries, you know, for the beach, for instance, if there's some rainy days, things like that, you know, we get some money back when people
no,
don't
I
work.
understand, it's just,
But there is a potential risk, like I said, being only 4 months into the fiscal year.
okay, thanks.
Any more questions? So do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve transfer of $45,000 for in the Parks Rec Department.
For the ice rink.
I'll second that and suggest routine.
Okay, moved by Leslie Moriarty, seconded by Harry Fisher. A transfer within Parks and Rec for chiller maintenance, $45,000.
Thank you.
Those in favor?
Can I
That's
ask a
before
question
before I close?
before you close? Does this require BET authority? Doesn't the Commissioner of, or Director of Parks and Rec have the authority to transfer all these funds within, it's major object code.
It's major
We're
object
across
code.
major object code. Never mind. Across departments you can, major object code. Correct.
No, right.
Sorry, what did you say, John?
Oh, it's across MOCs.
It's across major object.
Yeah, only because you didn't use temporary.
So I already took the vote, right? Those
Oh,
in
wait a
fa-
second. It's not a, never mind, it is.
Yeah, it is,
It is.
Salaries to 400s, never mind. It's been a long
from
day
100
already.
to 400, or 300 to
So those in
Yes.
favor?
Aye.
So that motion has passed unanimously, 400, and that was also routine. Correct. Okay, so our second item from Parks and Rec is separately for the Griff Harris Golf Fund. And that too is a internal transfer within that fund, and it's for, I guess, maintenance related to the water wells, correct?
Yeah, so, you know, towards the end of the golf season, we did have a series of unfortunate, unexpected issues with the well pumps that needed to be replaced. We also needed to get a new holding tank installed. Several water lines needed to be repaired, and then booster pumps required replacement as well. So a lot of the system was failing. Again, similar to the rink, we have a lot of aged infrastructure up at the golf course. And so we were able to get that work completed. But, you know, again, projecting out to what work needs to be done that we plan to do for the remainder of the fiscal year, we needed to replenish our maintenance fund to be able to get through the next 8 months or so. As we close down the season now, you know, this is when we really like to get a lot of our maintenance work done before we have to get back open in the spring. And usually we would, you know, use our regular budgeted funding, but this unexpected cost provided us to come here and ask for a little bit more to get our planned maintenance done.
Any questions?
No, just to point out, you only normally budget $25,000 into that maintenance line, so you use the majority of it already.
Correct, yes, and, you know, we talked with our staff up there. This is, you know, continuing trend with just an aged infrastructure, so we'll probably have to, in this year's FY27 budget, probably see that line increase to combat that.
David, do you have any questions? So is this well used for, you know, golf course watering, or is it near the clubhouse and used for all the different facilities?
Yeah, it is a full well water system on the course there. It's not tied into the town water system, so it supplies, drinking water, and anything of the sort there.
But it's used for the clubhouse, et cetera, or that area. It's not just out on a different part of the golf course, out at the golf course.
Correct, yeah, it's the course and the restaurant and the clubhouse.
Thank you. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move this and suggest routine.
I'll second.
Moved by Harry Fisher, seconded by Leslie Moriarty. This is a transfer within the major object codes of, for the Griff Harris Golf Course. Those as routine. Those in favor? 400, that motion is passed unanimously. So, thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. Have a good afternoon.
You too, Dan. Okay, so our next item on the agenda is for the Board of Education. And we have representation here. So this is for a Board of Education, an additional appropriation for replacement of the HVAC system at the Hamilton Avenue School for $4,921,000. And we have Ben Branyan, who's our school's chief operating officer, or something close to that.
Something, yeah, close enough. I don't want to bury the lead, but the number in front of you was an error on our part. If you see page 2 of the application, we show column January to 2025, and we show October 2025. The number that we need to complete the project is $5,319,500. When we completed the application, we unfortunately grabbed the wrong column, but the Board of Ed did a vote on the October 16th number, which is the 5,319,500.
5319.
500.
I thought we already approved part of that.
So if you look on that page there, the only thing that the BET and the RTM approved is the 325, which was so we show that as the credit they were previously funded. So in June of this calendar year, the BET and the RTM approved the 325 for A&E, which has allowed us to get to this point. If this is successful, we plan to go out to bid just after Thanksgiving. So we've spent the $325,000 with design work with AECom. So, but no other additional funding has been approved for the project except the 325.
But to Leslie's point, the 5319 includes 325,
It includes the 325 already approved.
unless,
To deduct down to the
It's a,
column.
it's
see, the
deducted.
total's a
Never mind.
5644, and then deduct.
I see it.
Yeah.
There's a negative.
And the capital sheet reflects the same.
Oh, I see. Okay, so let me just make sure. So both the capital sheet and our agenda need to be fixed.
The capital sheet's correct. It was just the cover sheet on the application. We pulled the 4921. We should have pulled the 53195.
The bonding authorization.
And the
And the bonding
resolution will have to
authorization
update, yeah.
needs to change, depending on what we do.
No, I'm totally confused. Do I not have the right sheet? 49?
That's what he's saying is the sheet's incorrect.
Oh, that's what I said. The sheet
Bonding
and the sheet
Needs to be
and the
corrected.
agenda need to be fixed. That's what I said. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, thank you. Okay, so you can
So
explain this to us.
at the end of the day, we're very happy how closely we came to the original estimate, which essentially is very close. If you look on that page 2 where we show the original estimate did not include construction oversight. So when you add that in, particularly because of the inflationary environment that we're in, we're very happy how close it came to the original estimate. So the math of the project still remains the same for the implementation of the geothermal system. At the end of the day, the project schedule, if we can move forward, we should be able to have it complete by September of next calendar year. One thing that we did not build in, but we anticipate is if we can move this forward, Dan's office, we can work off of state contract. We would be pre-purchasing some of the equipment, so to avoid some of the lead time issues. That also has a little bit of savings because of the third-party contractor would not then have the overhead that they would charge to that purchase. So we anticipate returning some of the funds, but rather than guesstimating what that savings would be, we're asking for the gross amount. knowing that we should have some savings with the purchase of the equipment. But it's a tight schedule, but we've been meeting with AECom biweekly since we received the funding, just to keep on track, and so far, we see no issue with, we have the bid documents already being reviewed, so we're on schedule. We just need the funds to continue to award the contract.
Any questions? Harry? Leslie?
I mean, this is an obvious question, but how aggressive is the timeline? It almost doesn't matter because you want to get started and get it going as quickly as you can. But to set expectations for the community, how realistic is September?
Very. We keep asking that question, and we recognize too, every month is $25,000 of operating rental costs too. So time is money. But right now, we believe it's realistic.
During the AECom, the feasibility part of the analysis, did you identify any more issues or complexity than you thought you would have going in?
No, because they spent a lot of their time early on site, getting up in the attics, getting up in the ceilings, doing all their due diligence. So far, I always ask that question, any surprises, and they keep saying no.
And I didn't calculate the contingency, but at this point in time in the project, you're comfortable with the contingency level you've got in here? I
Yes.
think it's 351, so it's like 8% or something?
Yeah.
7%. So no further questions.
So I think when we approved the 325, I did ask if, when you brought this back and we got the information for the geothermal system, if you could also, didn't have to be detailed numbers, but advise what a similar conventional HVAC system would be. Did you or Dan Watson ask for this information, or?
We stopped doing the analysis once the 325 was released. So the 325 had the condition for, I think, grants associated with that. I think at the time Superintendent Jones presented that. But the 325 was for the design of geothermal. So once we made that decision to move forward on that system, we no longer did any additional work on the conventional, because the preliminary evaluation report stated that in the overall ownership of the project, geothermal is a better project.
And I'll ask another question about the construction oversight. Originally, in the preliminary information that you provided, there was no construction oversight, and now it's $250,000. Is this, do we use construction oversight for a conventional system, or did you feel it was necessary for this particular kind of geothermal system, and given the experience here?
Geothermal system is not driving the oversight. It's the project, it's the timeline, it's everything that we've gone through with this project for years to get to this point. Dan and I, and particularly Dan, pushed back on that number. We do think it's a little bit high. But again, just from a budgetary perspective, we think that's the number. We anticipate that will be lower, but just to be clear, geothermal is not pushing the oversight. Just because of this project, how it is, we thought it's necessary just to make sure we have all hands on deck on this project.
And will that construction oversight be provided by AECom, or is it being provided by another party that you will?
We're still working on exactly who will be doing that.
And then I went through the information you provided and the details. So what surprised me when we're at this stage, and we're optimistic this project will get done, by the end of next summer, we'll say, was that there's still so much project escalation in this. Rather, you're talking about it's going out to bid now, and nevertheless, it has a annualized, I guess, so if it was only semi-annual, even less than that, project escalation of 4.13% when our area inflation is less than 3%. And so that surprised me at this point in time. Were you concerned that this was high, the inflation rate?
No, because they came in so close to what we originally had, and when they updated it, they did apply the Fairfield County factor. So they were aware of that, but we weren't surprised on any of the numbers. We did push back a little bit on the design contingency escalation. But at this point, I'd rather just be slightly overfunded than underfunded when we try to get this project, just because of the starts and stops we had on this project.
So, when I looked at the general contractor overhead and general contractor profit, it's basically 15%. When I looked at the subcontractors, you combine that along with the general contractor, it's 20%. And then the, design contingency still of 12.25%. These seemed high for a project that would be this far along. You didn't need to consider adjustment of these numbers?
When we spoke with this exact question in full disclosure with AECom, they said, oh, you could lower it by 100,000. Again, I'm going back to the amount of starts and stops we've had on this project. I go, what's 100,000 among friends? Why don't we just ask for what we need, and we're not going to spend something we don't need and that'll be returned. But we just did not want to cut ourselves short on this project. We want to get it out the door.
So when I added those numbers, they were more like 1,750,000, so 100,000 sounds like not enough, but that's a comment. Anyway, so I will be watching to see what the expenses are really like.
So will we.
So do I have
So I make a
any more
motion.
questions? Or a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve this project for $5,319,500, and I think we might as well do the bond at the same.
Well, let's do it one at a time.
Oh,
We
one at a
normally
time?
do. Yes.
All right, let's then just do it one at a time. Motion to approve for $5,319,500.
Second.
Moved by David Weisbrod, seconded by Harry Fisher. An additional appropriation for the geothermal. What?
It's non-routine.
Non-routine.
Right. Geothermal HVAC system at Hamilton Avenue School as a non-routine item. David, are you on board for that? Those in favor?
Aye.
So that motion is passed 4-0-0.
Now is it time for the bond?
Yes, that's our next item on the agenda. I think we should read it first. I think perhaps, thank you very much, Ben, and you will have to appear, I guess, on Monday night. So our next item is from Finance. It's the bonding resolution for the HVAC replacement at Hamilton Avenue School, and that's in the amount of $5,319,500. Do I have a motion?
Can I,
Oh, yes.
I'll get the motion, then I have one question.
Do I have a
which
motion?
Maybe
I move
Ben-
that we approve the bonding resolution for $5,319,500.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by David Weisbrod, seconded by Harry Fisher. A bonding resolution for the geothermal HVAC replacement at Hamilton Avenue School for $5,319,500.
I have a question. Section 5 of the bonding resolution says that the Board of Ed is authorized on behalf of the town to apply to the Connecticut Commissioner of Education for any grants. Is that too limiting? Is there potentially any other grants, not just offered by the Commissioner of Education? I suppose the town could apply, help with the Board of Ed, but this language is buried in the bonding resolution. I want to make sure it's accurate and operational.
That was what the bond
The
council.
bond council
Yes, yes.
wrote it that way.
I don't know if you have the updated one. Do you have the updated one?
I have what's in the packet, so.
Okay.
We've chased down every lead we possibly can on grants and the like, and ITC credits and the like. It's just, it's not available.
It's not available, okay. I mean, the workaround then is always that the town can apply on behalf of the Board of Ed, I suppose, but, okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll take a vote on that motion for $5,319,500 bonding resolution. Those in favor?
Aye.
So that motion is passed 4-0-0. And thank you, Finance Department, for putting that together. So,
Can I make a suggestion?
yes.
That we move Nathaniel Witherell ahead of economic conditions since the team is here.
Certainly. Do I have you want to take that as a motion, just,
Yeah, I'll move that we change the agenda to bring Nathaniel Witherell's strategic plan discussion up above economic conditions.
Second that.
Okay, moved by Harry Fisher, second by David Weisbrod, just to slightly modify the agenda by moving
Aye.
Witherall ahead. That motion is passed 4-0-0. So we welcome Nathaniel Witherall to come and update us on their Nathaniel Witherall strategic plan discussion. And they have sent some financial statements in, and we look forward to the discussion. So we have with us today Peter Navarro, the chairman of the board of Nathaniel Witherall. And do you want to introduce everyone? That's normally the process we have for.
Sure, I'll make a minor correction. It's Peter Kelly, but I know there's Peter Navarro's too, so I
I'm
I
sorry
get
about
confused
that.
all the time. Not a problem.
I was looking at Kelly. I was going to go through the whole.
I always
group, and
wanted
then-
a different name. Thank you very much, and of course I have with me Kelly Nardone, who's our Director of Finance, John Mastinardi, who is the CEO, Executive Director, CEO of the Nathaniel Witherall, and Brad Radulabaki, who is our board member and chair of the Finance Committee. And what I'd like to do, if I could, is make a few comments in terms of the strategic plan process and where we are with that. And then I'm going to turn it over to John to give some details of what's going on now. And I know that this committee is interested in the first quarter results of Witherall and where we're going from there, and Brad and Kelly will do that. So let me start out by saying that to develop a strategic plan, we need a board organization, and I truly believe that we have that now. We have a small board, but it is a board that is absolutely committed, and that I'm talking about all board members, to participate on some level in the committees that we formed. And I think it's important that for any board to have committees, as you well know, which Witherall has not really had in the past, at least in the near future, and we have that now. We have a finance committee, and it is very active, and Brad works very closely on a regular basis. I'm almost thinking it's a regular salary basis with Kelly. Our quality committee, which is another important key committee, is chaired by Peggy Martino, who is a relatively new board member. She is a very seasoned nurse executive, having worked in large healthcare systems in the metropolitan area, and really brings a very sharp focus on patient care and satisfaction. And most importantly for this discussion, we have a strategic planning committee now. That committee is chaired by Kate Tabner. And I believe since the last time we formed that committee, after the last meeting we had with this group, and I think Kate's already had 4 meetings. So these are not just standard, let's have a meeting once a month committees. These are active working committees to address the issues that really we are concerned about, and I know you're concerned about as a committee and as a BET. The strategic plan is really focused on a number of things, but first and foremost, the financial reimbursement scene has really changed a lot in the last several years. We're seeing lots of shifts from Medicare to Medicare managed care. We're seeing increases in Medicaid and some decreases in Medicare. And we really have to make sure that we are on top of exactly what these changes are, why they're happening, and what they're doing to our financial picture at Nathaniel Witherall. Our goal of our strategic plan is to become the preferred short-term physical rehabilitation and long-term care facility choice in the region. To do that, our strategy is to identify and engage potential referral sources, both hospital and community-based, to assess need and align the Nathaniel Witherall services to that need. And I want to make it clear, that does not mean we want to be all things to all people. We want to be very careful to make sure that we understand what the needs of our referral sources are, but we also have to be very careful to make sure that we can appropriately provide those services that are both fiscally responsible and also quality responsible. So I just want to make sure that people understand that, yes, we have a lot of information to gather, but we're going to be very careful to make sure that it aligns with what we believe as a board and executive leadership that the services that the Nathaniel Whitlow should provide. We also have tactics. We have to understand how we're going to go about this. And we are going to be doing a lot in the next couple of months. I will say, as an aside, we do have a board meeting this month, and one of the things we want to do at the board meeting is determine the time frame in which we need to get this done. This is not something that will be open-ended, but by the same token, it will not be something that we can determine in a month. But we do have to make sure that we can be responsible so we understand as a board what pressures we need to have on ourselves to get this done, but also to be able to report back to this committee and to the BET in general with a satisfaction level that there's a process in place that will have an end. We will be meeting with leadership of the following the acute care and ambulatory referral sources. We're going to meet with leadership of Greenwich Hospital, Stanford Hospital, Norwalk Hospital, and White Plains Hospital. And why are those 4 hospitals the ones we're looking at? Because certainly from Greenwich, we get the majority of our referrals. But we are seeing more referrals from Norwalk, and we're seeing more referrals from White Plains. So we have to understand, why are they coming here? In many cases, they are Greenwich residents who have gone to those facilities for services. And we should make sure that we bring those Greenwich residents back here again. By the same token, I think we can all see in healthcare in general, I think Greenwich Hospital is an example of that, that it's hard for a community the size of Greenwich to support these organizations alone. And we need to look at what the opportunities are to bring additional volume in that will bring additional resources in financially. And again, our goal is to lessen the burden of the town on supporting the Witherall. It's not going to happen overnight, but it certainly is a focus that we have. We'll also be looking at locally, we want to meet with the leadership of the River House, which I think you're all aware of. It's an adult daycare facility. And on an increasing basis, those clients in that facility eventually start needing longer-term care. And we need to coordinate to make sure that people understand who we are, we're here to serve, and we can take care of those patients. So we'll be meeting with them also. And we also have to meet with the key leadership in the Greenwich Commission on Aging. One of the things that struck me when I went to the 50th anniversary celebration is that I did not get a sense that we are as visible and involved as we should be. And I think that's potentially an opportunity because, again, if we're looking at aging in Greenwich, aging takes on all different forms and all different needs of resources, and we want to make sure that people know who we are, what we are, and we are focused on taking care of that population. So those meetings, and we'll be doing that very quickly. We want to, even though the holidays are coming up, we want to schedule these meetings before the end of the year because we need to get this information in to understand what we need to look at. We're also going to continue because we do know we need to develop additional clinical expertise. We've spoken about before, and I think both John and Brad and Kelly will mention it, we have started a COPD program, a chronic obstructive pulmonary disease program, and that has already been, I think, showing signs of success because these are patients who are in the hospital. Hospitals do not treat chronic diseases at all, and even outpatient services hospitals may not provide that. And if we can provide the service, and we started this program and is showing success, then this is an opportunity to garner additional patients from these hospitals and be successful in that. And we always look at what the revenue source is, and we are looking at just not the volume, but also the revenue that comes with them. So we will be doing that. We've already begun and having a 7-day-a-week now medical coverage on site at at the Nathaniel Witherall. And this is something that is, I think, not the norm. It's not, others do it, but it's not been the norm in long-term care facilities. It's usually been, this has been a medical director, there have been various physicians covering services, but we now have a dedicated group that is there to assess patients and treat patients, both short-term rehab and long-term care, and provide for their services. And one of the goals of that is to try to keep the residents in the home, not have them being shipped out. They have something, their IV isn't working right, they develop pneumonia maybe they shouldn't have developed, they end up going to the hospital. The bed is there held for a short period of time, but we lose that revenue, and the hospital is looking at us saying, why do these people keep coming back? So we want to make sure that we can provide the best possible medical coverage to appropriately, I underscore the word appropriately, keep these patients safe and in their home, particularly the long-term care patients. So we have started that program. It's a combination of physicians and advanced nurse practitioners who provide this coverage. And I think that is being very well received. And it's something, quite frankly, we want to promote within our communities, that we have that service there. Memory care is a big issue. These are dementia patients. We have an entire unit which is generally filled, and we have seen in recent days we've had to turn some patients away, which is never our goal, because we did not have an appropriate bed. Now, a lot of these issues deal with male-female beds. Dementia patients, memory care patients can be very disruptive, and we have to take that into account. But we have to develop a plan, and we were actually talking about it even more in the hallway as we were waiting, to be able to have the flexibility within the beds we have available, not to turn patients away that are appropriate for our services. So that's something that we're going to look at very, very quickly. Those are an IV program. You know, patients who are discharged from hospitals frequently need IVs for hydration. They also may need IVs for antibiotics. So we're looking at what programs that we aren't providing we should provide, and I'm not talking about high-end infusion programs like cancer drugs or anything. This is really very basic things that patients may receive in the hospital and could receive in our facility, and we want to provide those services. So we're looking at that. And lastly, we want to partner with other providers where it makes sense. And we actually have on Monday coming, a group of us will be spending about 6 hours at the Witherall doing final interviews with the three proposals from 3 different vendors to provide short-term rehabilitation services. We've provided that, but as I've mentioned to this group in the past, it's something that we have looked at and said we really think we would like to re-look at it and put a request for proposal out to really make sure that we're receiving the best services now, but also an opportunity to partner with potentially one of these vendors to expand our services and also be beneficial in terms of admissions, both for us and them. So this is something we're looking at, but again, we're going to interview and make sure that from a fiscal standpoint, we're not going to approve a proposal unless it is financially viable for us, both in terms of cost and projected revenue. So these are some of the things we're doing. Also, we are going to look very carefully at cost containment. We have been laser focused on overtime, focused on temporary employment or employees. We have been successful at recruiting full-time employees, which are obviously always more cost effective. And we also want to challenge ourselves in terms of services that have been outsourced. One of the main one being food service, both long-term care and acute care. Food service is always outsourced, almost always. And we want to challenge that to see if, in fact, what we're paying for what we think we receive is there, and the assumptions that were made to do this in the first place are accurate, and there's an opportunity to save money. So those are short-term things that we're going to do. We're not waiting for a completed strategic plan to look at some of those tactical things I just talked about or the cost savings. So those have been my comments. I'll certainly take questions, or I will turn it over to John and then to Brad. And if you'd like to hear the whole presentation, ask questions, I defer to the committee for that.
I just have one. When you were talking about local organizations to meet, and I think that's great, Commission on Aging or others, and you talked about River House, and of course, River House used to be housed at Nathaniel Witherall, but you didn't mention At Home in Greenwich, and I would think that that also would be another group that would potentially be worthwhile talking with, and I believe, isn't the volunteer board chair of that also on the board of Friends of Witherall?
Could be.
Yes, so astute observation, and I will say that I attend the Commission on Aging, their regularly scheduled meetings, and they're working to build a consortium in the town. Quite honestly, it's in its nascent stages, but I'm hopeful and optimistic that we will be able to truly network to provide services for the community, facing reality that not only the Greenwich community, but the nation is an aging community. So I think there's a lot of value in what the COA is doing, trying to bring all these disparate aging services together to really form a network.
And to your question, too, I think that any other, I mean, these are things just written down, but anything, if anybody we should be meeting with, we want to meet with. So we want any information we can have will be helpful.
Now, because that group is more apt to be private pay, which I would think would be an advantage to Witherall. Okay, so I think, Leslie, do you have a question?
I just want to put this into context, because, clearly, we're a finance board, right? But we are very concerned both about qualitatively of what Nathaniel Witherall provides in the community, as well as the financial support that it will require from the town to continue. But clearly, what the financials currently tell us is that the revenue, certainly your current revenue is not what you expect it to be or want it to be. You're controlling expenses, you're staying within budget, but the revenue isn't there. Are there any I know that you're using historical information to help drive what may need to change in order to get the additional revenue, but is there anything you can tell us from your current view of where your census is and what the factors impacting that sentence to better understand the current status?
Yes.
No, let me make a comment. I was going to turn it over to John, but yeah, they're all multi-factors. I mean, one of the things is what insurance people have. We all know that's a big discussion going on a national basis right now. And then it impacts us. We've got post-COVID still, I think, hangover. I think there are still people, particularly with the black eye, that long-term care facilities took in general during COVID. There's still a fear going on there. But I think also we're seeing aging, just as hospitals see older, more complex patients, long-term care facilities need to address aging long-term care patients. And I think those are just a couple of things, and I turn it over to John for some other comments.
So I'll get into some of the things that, Leslie, you were asking about. In summary, Nathaniel Witherall continues to make strides and push for improvement in financial performance, in service expansion, and in our operational efficiencies. And we're doing that while maintaining our commitment to keep on improving quality care and compliance. Our key priorities for Q4 of '25 include completing feasibility studies for memory care, which Peter had mentioned, and expansion, and finalizing some key leadership hires and implementing recommendations for the food service audit. So In summary, we continue to have opportunities to strengthen our care documentation and capture the full reimbursement revenue our services warrant. So in short, we are still leaving money on the table. To address this, I've engaged Zimmet Healthcare Services Group to conduct a comprehensive review of our billing and documentation practices to ensure full optimization of both Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement, and a very fresh preview from my Zoom meeting this morning with Michael from Zimmet is that the preliminary findings indicate that we're undercoding still in certain care categories, resulting in missed opportunities to document the true level of care provided and to receive the corresponding higher daily reimbursement rates. For example, the state average for the special care high category is 46.5%, while our facility's average is 38.7%. Conversely, the state average for the lowest care level category is 18.8% compared to our 25.7%. That indicates that we're trending below the state average in higher acuity coding and above the state average in lower acuity coding, translating into a significant opportunity for revenue improvement through more accurate documentation. What that means in money potentially, at least minimally, would be $40 more per patient per day, which would go through to about $150,000 extra dollars. So our focus moving forward will be on identifying and correcting instances of undercoding across the interdisciplinary team, and by ensuring that clinical documentation accurately reflects the level of care provided, we can enhance both reimbursement performance and care quality alignment. Any questions on
This
that?
just means, it's like ongoing training, right? Because it's not just training a billing specialist, it's every staff member notating charts and writing up documentation. So it requires really full-time training of every turnover, reinforcement to existing staff.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. And that is, at least in preliminary fashion, what Zimmet and I discussed this morning, which is the entire interdisciplinary team being trained and retrained and upskilled in what we're allowed to do. There's some, I think, some reticence on some of the IDT team's part because they think that they're overcoding when in fact they're not at all. They're afraid that they will do something that will get us penalized, and they don't realize where that line actually is. So yes, you're absolutely right, yes.
Is there a penalty for asking for something that you're not entitled to, or is it just rejected and you get reimbursed a lower amount? Like, is that a real fear?
The latter.
Okay, it's not a
latter.
real fear
No,
that they have.
No.
So, but the census number continues to disappoint, and it's probably the one number that just jumps out here. Comments?
I think to Peter's point, and I'm sure he'll have something to add to this, but right, what we're looking at is some flexibility in taking some of those referrals that we are currently turning away, and figuring out how best to accommodate those, not turn them away, where they would go, and staffing appropriately for them. Because a lot of those, and I'll get into that a bit more, are memory care and dementia patients.
Do you have more data to present, or are you going to, I'm not sure.
I
have more questions, but I'd rather have you present everything
Sure.
that you need to.
Sure. I'll continue unless anybody has anything.
I did just want to mention, we talked about improving reimbursement. So you guys should know that reimbursements for the most profitable business lines have all gone up over the last 12 months. They've gone up significantly. So the highest profitable business line is Medicare. They have the highest reimbursements. That rate, I believe, started a year ago. This was July of 2024 at $732 per patient. In July of this year, okay, so 12 months later, it was $793. So that's what the MDS improvements have been. John's talking about raising that even further, okay? So we did backtrack a bit the last 2 months, which triggered this additional analysis. But the bottom line is our most profitable, impactful business line has significantly improved revenues per patient. So has private pay, which moved from $664 a year ago to $670 in July, and managed Medicare, which also has improved. These are probably the three most profitable business lines. They've all improved due to the efforts of MDS, and John is saying that there's more room to go.
Thank you, Brad. All right, I'll continue. In keeping with the theme of documentation, just some results on our MDS audits, which showed major improvement. So our most recent Myers and Stauffer MDS audit showed a 5% error rate, and that's a significant improvement from the 31% error rate last year and the 55% error rate the year before. This achievement places us well below that 10% penalty threshold, avoiding a 2% Medicare reduction and confirming some strong improvements in documentation practices, but we do have a way to go, as I pointed out. Any questions as far as that's concerned? As Peter mentioned, we do continue to promote the COPD clinical program, and it continues to perform well. The residents served in the last 9 months were 105, and the average monthly census for the COPD program for those patients is 11.5, up from an average of 8.5. And that reflects some consistent clinical outcomes and a stronger payer performance. I will have more specific revenue information for the committee and the board, but right now the data is aggregate, and I need to be able to pull out somehow the COPD revenue from that aggregate data, because it's all-inclusive services. So the revenue per day is all-inclusive, and I have to figure out a way to extrapolate that. And also, as Peter and Brad mentioned, the memory care expansion planning phase, data from August through October of this year shows that we were unable to accommodate 14 memory care referrals for admission due to a limited number of available memory care beds. 8 were long-term, and 6 were short-term referrals. That distinction I make is important because short-term referrals are reimbursed at the higher daily Medicare rate. Long-term cases are reimbursed at the lower daily Medicaid rate. Based on this data, we believe there is a need and a market for expanding memory care, and we're evaluating options for memory care expansion, including the location, the staffing, the payer mix. And while Medicaid reimbursement remains at a lower daily rate, we're exploring offset strategies through Medicare and managed care participation. Also, as was mentioned previously, the clinical coverage enhancement, we've added 3 new APRNs, bringing the total to 5, ensuring 7-day coverage and improved care coordination across the facility. And why that's important is, I think Peter had touched on this. You've got folks family members who want their loved one to go out to the hospital if they've got shortness of breath, or if they might be experiencing behavioral changes due to UTIs, maybe the beginning of sepsis, hopefully not. But the point there is, if they've got a relationship with a nurse practitioner or the physician and they're more available, they can assure them that we can build trust, treat their loved one in place, and keep them at the facility rather than going to the hospital and sitting perhaps on a stretcher for observation and really not getting taken care of the way that they need to. So there's a trust built in there that over time with the additional NPs. Food and nutrition services, after collaborative review with HR and the Teamsters and food service GM, a new master staffing schedule was developed to, one, ensure compliance with the CBA, improve efficiency and staff shift alignment, and reduce the FTEs by about 1.5 to 2, lowering overtime. That is still in the works because letters have to go out to those union members that their shifts will be changing, and that's as the committee knows, a 2-week notification. Those will be going out this week. Again, that is to reduce staffing and lower overtime. Additionally, Two Trees Consulting has been engaged to audit food services operations to reduce meal cost per patient per day. They were in 2 weeks ago. I just got their report this morning. So I will update the committee and the board on the findings. I simply haven't had a chance to really dig into that report yet. Overtime update. I recently reviewed the overtime approval process and revised it for nursing. It had nurse supervisors approving overtime on their nursing floors, and the newly revised policy has nurse supervisors requesting overtime through the nursing scheduler's office. The nursing scheduler staffs according to the nurse staffing budget. If the overtime request doesn't align with the staffing budget, the request isn't approved. If there are extenuating circumstances or a dispute related to an overtime request, the nursing scheduler notifies me and the director of nursing for a final decision. The pay period ending November 8th of this year, nursing overtime was a total of 498 hours. That's at 9.5%. Subsequent pay periods saw a steady decline in overtime hours from 392 to a projected 311 to 256 hours for the remainder of November. So the projected trend is for overtime to continue to trend downward through December with an average overtime rate of 4.3%, and that is from a high of 9.8%. And what that means in dollars is an average of about $85,000 in overtime per pay period to the most recent total nursing overtime total of $59,000 in overtime for the most recent pay period. So overtime, I do expect overtime to continue to trend downward favorably. We are partnering with Grassi for an executive search for the director of nursing. I was just in contact with their CEO, and he told me that we would have 3 candidates to review by next week. Facilities director, there are internal and external candidates identified, and interviews are underway for next week. So I will update the committee and the board on that as we make progress. So in summary, we continue to strengthen our financial performance and improve it, our operational efficiencies and our clinical quality. Again, our current priorities include completing that memory care feasibility study, finalizing our key leadership hires, and implementing audit and recommendations to further improve our efficiency and sustainability. Questions?
Question? 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 No? I'm sorry?
We'll let you go first.
I don't have questions at this point.
Oh, okay.
So, do we have more presentation?
Yes, we have the first quarter, if you'd like to hear about it.
Yes. Is it this one?
Is that it, Kelly? I don't know, it's a big one, okay. All right, so,
I think it's just printed larger for us.
yes, it's easy to see, it's true, I have to squint. But, so I'll be talking.
Anyone here is aging.
Yeah, I'll be talking about this, I'll have some prepared remarks, but I think it was a difficult quarter. And due to some unexpected local referral dynamics and some accelerating national trends. But it gives you an idea of the challenges that the Witherall is facing as we try to put it on solid footing, okay, this quarter. So during the first quarter, the Witherall faced a few challenges that resulted in weaker than expected revenues and a larger than expected loss before CapEx and debt service. Revenues in 1Q declined by 7%, or $537,000 versus a year ago, due to two things: declining census and a deteriorating patient mix. So in regards to census, for the quarter, census averaged 169 patients a day, which is 9 patients less than the 178 figure that we registered a year ago. The primary cause of this unexpected drop in patient volume was a 30% decline in referrals from Greenwich Hospital in the first quarter, and an average decline of 7 patient admissions per month from Greenwich Hospital during this period. Okay, this is a little bit unprecedented. The decline in Greenwich Hospital referrals was due to a lower hospital census, as the facility placed more patients on what's called observation status, instead of formally admitting them. If patients are not admitted to the hospital, they cannot be referred out to a skilled nursing facility like Witherall. And they have their own reasons why they place these people on observation status. It's a lot of financial issues, but that's what they were doing from our best information for the first quarter. So out of the 9 patients shortfall, we attribute 7 of them directly to Greenwich Hospital. Further, we have noticed an increase in patient turnover in the quarter, that's churn, that negatively impacted census. We believe higher patient churn is driven by the rising trend of managed Medicare admissions at Witherall, which has reduced the percentage of longer stay standard Medicare patients. The managed Medicare, I think you guys watch the commercials for Medicare Advantage? That's managed Medicare. And it provides actually less service. It gives you more confined services versus regular Medicare. Kelly, did you give me the statistics that managed Medicare patients spend half the time in our facility than regular Medicare?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, so imagine, if you have more of these managed Medicare, you need 2 of them to equal 1 Medicare patient, right? 2 of them. So census is going to suffer unless we can ramp up the volume of managed Medicare because they're churning out, they're spinning out of our system because of the requirements of Medicare. So
I will ask one of my questions now then. And John, I know, is anticipating it, probably smiling. Can you give us the average stay of the rehab persons currently, or over the quarter or the last year, whichever, and the average stay of the long-term care? What is the average now?
22 days for short-term rehab.
22 days is the average for short-term rehab?
Yes.
And what is the average for long-term care? But you will get back to us with that number.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
I mean, I think I calculated on a rough basis, the average overall stay of every patient is something around just under 5 months.
Yeah, but Brad, again,
It's all patients, it's all patients.
I like to see it short-term versus
Yeah, yeah,
long-term,
John- well,
and then the
John-
allocation of costs
Right.
for the different types of, but, you've broken it down to one particular category, but I think just on average is,
Yeah, it's going to be more helpful to break
you.
it down. Right.
Sorry, I interrupted you, but it was the time to ask that question.
No worries, no worries. So I just want to address the other issue that we faced during the quarter. It was the patient mix. So the patient mix for the quarter deteriorated significantly as Medicare patients fell to 10% of total patients admitted versus 14% in the year-ago period. This is a big decline. Medicare patients represent 10% of our patients, but something like 18% of our revenues. So this caused Medicare revenues to decline by $518,000 year on year. Medicaid has the highest reimbursement level and is the main profit center for nursing homes, including the Witherall. And we attribute the decline in Medicare patients and revenues largely to the reduced referrals from Greenwich Hospital. This was, we believe, a real Greenwich Hospital issue that came out of nowhere, frankly, for us.
Is it continuing?
No. Our most recent data is that in October, we've seen a rebound in Greenwich Hospital referrals and admissions back to longer-term trends. Okay?
What's the census now?
It'll be I think it's going to be 172 for October. So that's an improvement. It's an improvement from September's numbers. The other point I just wanted to make was that private pay patients, another important business line, also saw a slight decline to 12% of total patients versus 13% a year ago, but it did result in a $125,000 decline in private pay revenues. So if you look at that sheet, you'll see the two big revenue shortfalls, and they are in Medicare and private pay patients. It's all the way on the right on the report. Finally, with the cost, on the cost side, there was an overall 2% increase in the quarter versus a year ago period, and most of this increase came through due to higher fringe benefits, where healthcare insurance costs rose by 11% versus 2025. Healthcare costs are 53% of total fringe benefits, and we also had some ancillary, I think pension contributions rose quite a bit, and that was the big change in the cost side. So finally, we can see that the resulting margin before debt service and CapEx was a loss of $803,000 versus a loss of $144,000 a year ago. And I did mention that October is sort of rebounding more toward the levels that we've experienced, earlier this year.
Any questions?
You start.
So I just want to make sure, does Kelly plan to say anything, or we now covered everything? I just want to make sure. Okay.
Unless Kelly has something to say.
Brad did everything that Kelly told him to do.
No, I didn't want to interrupt anything that, so.
Kelly is going to add one thing.
Kelly?
Oh, go ahead.
So yes, we do have positive trend in census and revenue in October. Like Brad mentioned it, 172 census. In October, we made 209,000 more in all payers revenue. Just Medicare alone, we made 193,000 more than September's. So we have good news.
Thank you. Harry?
Yeah, I think this has been a very good, comprehensive report and much appreciated, at least by this member. If you could just remind me, Peter, what is your timeline for actually having the strategic plan prepared and ready for prime time?
Yeah, we are at our board meeting this month, our November board meeting. One of the topics is to discuss exactly that. We have an outline now of what we need to do. Now we have to put time on it of getting it done. But I would certainly like to see the impact of some of the things we're doing, particularly some of the tactical decisions we're doing, would hit the third quarter of this year. Because, we're not just waiting to say, well, this is all a strategic plan for the 27 budget. This has to happen now. So I'd like to believe that probably by the first meeting, and I can get back to you after our board meeting on Monday with a specific date, but we need to put a time specific, but it has to be a matter of maybe 2 months tops. Because, as you can see, we've got to gather information as the holidays, and, we're ready to go any place, but some people aren't ready to have us yet. So time is of the essence on this side, but we will get that time frame for you.
Good. So it sounds like before we get into our deliberations on the budget, you'll actually have a strategic plan in place that, could be,
Yeah, you start those deliberations when?
well, the budget is presented at the end of January. The
Right,
Budget
right.
Committee works during February.
Yes.
And then makes decisions
No,
in
we
early
definitely,
March.
we will have multiple meetings, and I would absolutely anticipate that by mid to end of January, we'll have something before those deliberations start.
Good, thank you.
Yeah. I would make just one more comment, because I think Brad and John really summed it up well, but the question that Leslie Moriarty asked, and David did also, about, the troubling decline in census, and it is troubling. But I think to put it in the, I'm the simpleton at the table, let's put it in the simplest terms possible. The patient population is so different today than it was a year ago, 2 years ago. I mean, what we're dealing with is older, sicker, more complex patients, and we have to be able to provide those services. I know one of the concerns was, well, if we provide those complicated services, is there more of a risk in terms of legal questions, et cetera? The answer is maybe, probably, but, the fact is that long-term care facilities and hospitals are dealing with the same thing. That's the patient population we have. And, that's why insurance costs go up, and that's why we have to be careful to make sure that we have the right staff in place to provide those services. So we need to go after the memory care. Again, we have the beds available to put together a plan that will result in not having to turn those patients away because of the difficulty in placing them in beds and all. We have to come up with a short-term plan to not have that happen again. And we will do that also. John and I have already been talking about that, so we're focused on that.
Peter, I'm sure you covered this, but the memory patients tend to be Medicaid, Medicare, what's the mix?
John,
Right, as I said before, over the last 3 months, what we saw was 6 short-term, which would be Medicare, and 8 long-term, which would be Medicaid. So if that's an early indication, it would be not quite an even mix. It'd be more Medicaid, but we would have to strategically accept referrals, convert them to admissions so that we had enough of those short-term Medicare payers to offset the Medicaid rate.
Thank you.
Sure.
So I'll ask the difficult question, I guess. So will the strategic plan address what seems to be a targeted declining enrollment of patients over the last several years? I mean, we used to talk about like in the 190s, and then it was in the mid 180s, and now this year it's 170s. And yet we have the approval by the state for 202 beds. Are you looking at this issue and the cost of operating beds that aren't occupied?
Well, I think that, and I'll let John speak more to it, our staffing model, even though we're 5-star staffing, is to staff to census. So it's not a situation where we have empty beds and we have staff coming in every day to not take care of patients. So we do staff to the census. But to your question, the answer is absolutely. We are targeting patients and payers to both increase our census and improve our payer mix. So that is absolutely a laser focus for us.
So I'll ask another question. Right now, as the building is presented to the public, the majority or most long-term care beds are the semi-private, and the rehab is private. Is there any look at, say, making some of the beds for the short-term rehab, making them longer-term private pay, as an example, charging more and providing more and different kind of food or whatever it is that's offered there for, we'll call it higher paying, long-term care persons that, we have many of those in Greenwich too, who also are growing older. I mean, I quote the statistics, we have 17% of our town currently is over the age of 65, and, almost a third is over the age of 55. So, are we looking at maybe sort of changing locations and being able to upscale? As many know, I was on the board of Witherall, and when I was on the board, which was before Project Renew, or came up with Project Renew, there were long-term care beds that were like, they called them almost like suites, where they had, they were singles with, all facilities, and in those particular rooms all had porches. So they had the additional opportunity to go outdoors and yet still be in their room. Are we looking at other alternatives for using our available beds for changing the mix to higher pay?
Yeah, as Peter had said, everything in preliminary conversations and discussions about the strategic plan and tactical, everything is on the table. Yes, everything is on the table.
Yeah, and actually, Leslie, at the last board meeting, a board member brought that very thing up, and that was put on the table. So that will be part of the strategic plan look-see, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. Have any more questions? So I thank you very much for this update and the four of you coming in to visit with us. I will repeat what, Harry has suggested. I think it's critical that we get the new strategic plan in prior to the beginning of the budget discussions. I think that, it's very difficult to mix the two. And so I would suggest that, you look for the earlier date in January to make sure that that's met in terms of delivering the strategic plan, or at least a good solid draft of it.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I would hope also that part of what we present is what's actually starting in terms of from our tactics in place already. So I think that's probably what you're looking for. Reasonable. Thank you.
Super. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we look forward to hearing more, and, I guess, keep us informed of the progress. It sounds like October was good. And, we do get the monthly board package, and I certainly appreciate Linda Marini sending it to us on a monthly basis and read, the agenda and what's, presented by the executive director, and then also the financial statements. Thank you very much. I should ask before Stephen Selfs left, you are one of our two liaisons. Did you have any comments or questions, or you just?
I go regularly to the finance committee. I also go regularly to the board meeting, so I'm pretty well knowledgeable about what's going on. And I can only assure you that I've raised with the board and with the finance committee the census issue and the pyramids, because they're obvious, as David said, those are the issues that jump off the page. And I'm confident that this team will address them in the strategic plan.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay, so we'll move on back to our other agenda item under new business, and we'll have economic conditions. So Agnes Cowie, our budget director, I think has presented a very good report to us. And maybe you want to give us any overview of that?
Yeah, so the total revenue change from prior year is 12, on the revenue side, 12.07 million. The primary driver is obviously tax at 10 million. Building permits came in 1.29 million higher than last year, and it's due to Greenwich Hospital, the two locations at Greenwich Hospital 5 Perry Ridge Road and 77 Lafayette Place brought in $600,000 in building permits. And Burning Tree Country Club brought in $160,000. And a single-family dwelling also brought in $115,000 in building permits. Conveyance tax remains strong. There's nothing that jumps out, unlike last month where the mill, but it's still pretty strong. Now, with the fire marshal and the filing fees for planning and zoning, again, it's the Greenwich Hospital properties. So for the fire marshal, the 2 locations for Greenwich Hospital brought in $193,000 more. And for the filing fees, again, Greenwich Hospital, $154,000, and $244,000 for 19 Benedict Place. Tipping fees is just due to the decline, which we've seen the trend, and for the expenses side, it's lower by $88,000. ECS is just timing. Last prior year, it was recorded in October, and we don't have it yet. And interest income you're aware of. And for the state reimbursement, just a brief explanation. This year, we changed the way we are recording. We used to record it in general fund, which is why you see $691,000 here. But to be able to track grants better, we are now putting it on either bond, capital fund, Fund Z or Fund B. And so far on Fund Z, we have received a state reimbursement for Wescom for $1,109,105. And for CMAQ.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Wescom?
It's for who?
Wescom. And then for the CMAQ Route 1, we received $11,623. So far, our state reimbursement is, looking better, but it's just recorded in a different fund. For the expense side, we are showing an increase of $10.37 million from prior year. Of course, we show the lower pension contribution of $1.6 million and the lower OPEB contribution of $672,000. As far as the unfavorable cost increases, we have the higher health care, but then again, that includes a $5.5 million payment for November. So if you net that out, then it will just be a 2.1 increase. But you will constantly see that because we do pay for the next month payment for the health care. So you'll see that. Higher salaries, higher police salaries and overtime. Remember that the contract increased by 2.95% contractually, so you do see that. For the police supplies and materials, that's just timing. Again, we recorded in October this fiscal year, but last year was recorded later. And then you also have the higher insurance premiums and, the other increases.
Questions? Harry?
Excuse me, usually, in regard to tipping fees, we usually see a corresponding, reduction in the disposal costs, but I don't see that this time.
It's only $88,000 on the expense side. It's only $88,000.
So they've started to move apart from each other.
Yes, it seems to be.
Yeah, that's not a good trend.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? So, I
That's
just.
a good point that you're making, Harry.
I
I don't know if that's 1 month or that's
Just a quarter for the to October.
or if that's, built in to the run rate.
That's the trend. That's the trend, yeah.
I mean, do you guys sense it's just a quarterly aberration, or is it?
No, I think it's.
It's really
Yes, it's a
chronic.
continuing, yes.
And what might be causing it? Do you have any idea?
There's probably, the cost per ton has probably gone up,
Yeah.
but I don't know what our tipping fees have done.
Yeah.
No, per ton.
Per ton.
Right, exactly. So,
We may be starting to see a spread on the pricing
yeah,
that's hurting us. So that's something we're going to have to scrutinize during next year's budget deliberation.
And we'd also need to look at what's going on with recycling.
Yeah.
Because there's,
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that too.
which you don't have the breakout.
Yeah.
Right, but I'm wondering to what extent can that be adjusted prior to the budget discussions? Is there any leeway to doing mid-course correction in terms of the tipping fee?
We do have DPW liaisons, and I'll ask them if they could look at this question.
Brilliant, brilliant idea.
And is that part of the fee schedule the Board of Selectmen typically approve in December, or is that just Parks and Rec? Anyone else remember?
You know, I don't know when the fees are set, but December is a cycle on that.
Yeah.
Maybe we should get with Kate on this. That might be a better way to address it.
Yeah, rather than wait, since it's a chronic thing,
Well, we can do both.
And we can do both.
We can do both. So I think that's a good idea. Okay, so I did want to, and I do appreciate that very detailed report, but, I also wanted to just, we're talking year over year, but I went back and I looked at conveyance taxes. Although we're like a third through a year, 33% through the 4 months, our conveyance taxes are meeting 54% of our budget. Our building permits, again, a third of the year, are meeting 69% of our budget. And our interest, again, a third of the year, 33%, meeting 50% of our budget. So in terms of our budget, and keep our fingers crossed, we're doing well. Although we normally look at it exactly as you're saying, Agnes. But it's good to see them all hold up, because that, if this trend continues, this will just help us with fund balance at year end.
So I took those accounts and kind of annualized, as you did, interest won't annualize evenly because interest rates coming down, including the offset of tipping fees going the other way. It's about 5 million upside there, first budget, towards the 23.8 million of use of fund balance that we have. So to confirm what you're saying, no, the 5 million is to date.
Right, to date.
That's to date. But my point is, you can't necessarily take that times 3, because some things like interest won't continue at that same rate, the upside to budget. But you can, for rough numbers, you can. And this is only the accounts that Leslie mentioned, in addition to planning and zoning fees. They're also over, and fire plan review. So including just those 5 areas, and again, only the revenue side. So I'm kind of reiterating, saying the same thing as you, Leslie, because that's only those accounts, and that's nothing with taxes themselves.
So I think, we'll just keep our eye on it. I think in terms of the building permit fees, those are some very big projects, and, I'm not sure all these big projects will continue as such, because they're significant. They take a long time to go through planning and zoning and all these different things that we heard about earlier. But, I think conveyance taxes will continue to be strong, just because of the change in the New York administration and the attraction that Greenwich has. I also had a couple other things I think I wanted to, I'll just look here. One of the things that I noticed is that, and maybe it's timing, but we're not getting we're down about well over $300,000 in the BOE in terms of the Medicaid and education costs sharing grant money in terms of the receipts. So I just...
Yeah, that's timing. We'll confirm that, but that looks to be timing.
Okay. And then what did alarm me a little bit, and maybe you can help us on this, Joan, was the looking at the parking fund. It looks like we got that our revenues are down quite a bit, over $400,000 year to date. And it isn't just one category. It's parking permits in Central Greenwich, parking permits for residential in Cos Cob, Riverside, and Old Greenwich. It's the parking permits for Central Greenwich. 400,000, yet the economy has been strong. And, you know, I mean, I just eyeballed the parking lot last night at, you know, Greenwich, and it seems like, down to, you know, down at the train station. And it just seemed very full. And, but I was.
Let us
this
check
is-
if that's timing as well, because it's possible that receipts didn't, you know, this isn't a hard year-end cutoff, so let us
Well,
follow up on that.
But Joan, this is October, through October, and Central Greenwich only has $854 collected, which doesn't sound very good to me, and yet I see those little meter people opening up the, you know, I mean, and the parking permits for Central Greenwich, again, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, someone could look into that, because I thought that seemed a little unusual. I guess, you know, I looked at Greenwich, Nathaniel Witherall, and, you know, it just repeated what we learned today. But also, and this, Leslie, maybe this is you, the cell tower at the Griff, that seemed to be down quite a bit too. Why aren't we getting those revenues in? Have they taken some of the? Maybe you could check with Agnes or Joan, check with Dan Carlson or something, just to find out why we have an issue there. That would be great. And then food services, I guess it's about 300,000 worse than last year, but we kind of expected that, right? But that annualizes to, well over $1 million, and I don't think we thought it was going to be that high. Did we? Food services? So, anyway, so there's some things to think about. It's still only a third of the way through the budget, but things are beginning to fall in place, and pretty much, you know, based on the information we're getting in, it's overall positive, so that's good. So, at this point in time, I think the next thing on our agenda is our approval of Budget Committee meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the October 17th, 2025 minutes?
Let me ask a question. We made changes to those minutes this morning, so what are we approving? They weren't posted in the packet, were they?
They were posted in the packet that was posted this morning.
Okay, so
I
they're
thought,
the
that's what I was
revised-
told, that they were.
They're the
Is
revised
that-
minutes?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of, want to do it separately, October
17th. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
So motion made by Leslie Moriarty, seconded by Harry Fisher, to approve the minutes of October 17th, 2025. Those in favor? 400.
And then I'll make a motion.
Motion passed unanimously. Do I have a motion?
And then a motion to approve the minutes of, it's the 21st?
October 21st, the special meeting minutes?
Yes, special meeting minutes.
Second.
Moved by Leslie Moriarty, second by Harry Fisher, the minutes of the October 21st special meeting. Those in favor?
Aye.
400. So that motion passed. So I think we have no major points to bring up for the chair report. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
We adjourn.
Second.
So moved by David Weisbrod, seconded by Harry Fisher, to adjourn at 3:13. Those in favor?
Aye.
400. Thank you very much. And thank you, Joan, and thank you, Agnes, and thank you, Leo, for everything you've done to help us move ahead, and our